Harmonized lines played on a single guitar elevate some of the greatest guitar music from the Beatles to Nuno Bettencourt. In this video, I'll show you the easiest way to create these kinds of lines using examples from the masters. With a little knowledge of the major scale and a few tricks for visualizing parallel thirds and sixths, you'll elevate your guitar playing instantly. These techniques are used in a huge range of music, but I've never seen them taught the way I'm going to show you today. A bunch of my other videos have been leading up to this one, but even if you're new to the channel, stick around because I'll explain everything you need to know to be able to follow along, and I'll provide pointers to other videos if you want to dig deeper. Parallel thirds and sixths come up all the time in guitar riffs, fills, and melodies, and they sound great. Here are a few examples. The opening riff of Brown Eyed Girl by Van Morrison is made up of short parallel thirds lines for each chord. Blackbird by the Beatles is made up almost entirely of spread thirds played against an open G pedal tone. I'm a huge Nuno Bettencourt fan, and I recently went back and learned a bunch of the songs from Pornography, and there are tons of examples of him using parallel sixth intervals as fills. I usually think of these as being country music or R&B fills, but Nuno uses them all over the place. This is a fill from Decadence Dance. He plays it quite a bit faster than I do. So stick around. By the end of this video, you'll understand how each of those licks work and how to create your own. To take advantage of this, you're going to need to know 5 things, each of which is easy to learn. You'll need to know how the major scale sits along one string. When you want to start a parallel thirds or sixth line, you'll need to know which scale degree of the major scale your finger is on. You'll need to know which scale degrees map to major thirds and which map to minor thirds. This step is especially easy. You'll need to know at least one way to finger a minor and major third relative to the starting string. I'll show you 3 different ways to do this with different string spacings that all sound different from each other and really cool. And finally, you'll need to be able to move around inside the scale. Basically, I'm going to show you everything you need to know to be able to do this fluently, and I'll provide pointers to some of my other videos if you'd like to go into more depth on some of the underlying principles. As always, I've created a downloadable cheat sheet that covers the major concepts described in this video. You can find a link to purchase it in the video description, so don't worry about taking notes. There's nothing in the cheat sheet that isn't also in the video, so it's purely optional, but it's a great way to support the channel, and your purchases are hugely appreciated. Let's start by looking at steps 1 to 3 holistically. If we start at the first fret of the B string, which is a C note, we can make a major scale by playing the natural notes, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then back to C. Every major scale has the same sequence of intervals or distances between notes. Whole step, whole, half, then whole, 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 half. The scale degree of a note is just its position inside of the major scale, so they start at 1, they go up to 7, and then they repeat. There are half steps between 3 and 4, and then also between 7 and 1, so those are great landmarks to remember. We can take this pattern and move it anywhere on the fretboard. But for now, we need to find thirds. The word diatonic for our purposes means inside the major scale, and we can make diatonic third intervals by playing a note in the scale along with its neighbor 2 scale degrees higher. So a third built on the first scale degree is just notes 1 and 3 played together. This distance is 4 semitones, which is a major third, and we could move the upper note to the next string and play these 2 notes as a dyad. A third built on the second scale degree is notes 2 and 4. The distance is 3 semitones, which is a minor third. And again, we can move the upper note up to the next string and make a dyad. If we keep going, we find that we get a minor third when we build from the 3rd scale degree. We get a major third on the 4th scale degree. We get another major third built on the 5th scale degree. We get a minor third built on the 6th scale degree. For the 7th scale degree, we need another fret, and then we see we also get another minor third. And then we complete the scale by adding another major third built off the 1st scale degree. In practice, you won't need any of these calculations, but for now the takeaways are that this major scale pattern repeats over and over and always has the same shape no matter what key it's in or what string it's on. And you'll need to recognize where the 1st, 4th, and 5th scale degrees are inside the pattern, and you'll build major thirds there and minor thirds on all the other notes. Now, there are other places on the fretboard where we could have played the thirds, even if we keep the original scale in the same place. If instead of moving the upper notes up to the next string, we moved them down an octave, we'd still be playing the same notes. Technically, these become sixth intervals, but as I explained in a previous video, we can still think of them as thirds up from the notes on the B string, and this mental model will make things easy later on. So to use this strategy, we need to know mostly the same things as before, but we use different fingerings to make our thirds. Oh, hey, this is my first YouTube video with live action footage, so bear with me if the live parts seem a little bit awkward. My name's Keith, and I'm the creator of Fret Science. There are going to be a few things that I'd like to demonstrate where being able to see fingers moving on the fretboard is better than just having an animation. I'd like to take this opportunity to offer my sincere thank you to Martin Guitars for sending me this SC13E special that I'm using for all the demonstrations of this video. I'm not planning to get into reviewing gear on this channel, and I'm under no obligation to say anything nice about this guitar, but as primarily an electric guitar player, this is one of the most fun acoustic guitars I've ever played. As you can see, the cutaway is extra exaggerated, and that makes it super easy to reach the upper frets. And even better than that, Martin has come up with a unique neck joint that makes it even easier to get up there. So thank you to Martin Guitars for sending this to me. Much appreciated. In terms of what you're hearing on this video, this model has an LR Baggs acoustic pickup, and I'm playing through a Fishman Aura pedal and a TC Electronic Hall of Fame stereo reverb into my audio interface. Every bit of guitar playing you hear in this video is recorded with that setup. If you're interested in this guitar or any of the rest of the signal chain, there are links in the video description. I'll be back in a minute or two with some live examples, but before I go, please hit those like and subscribe buttons. That helps this channel reach a wider audience on YouTube, and I really appreciate your help. Thank you. As you've seen from the first two examples, if you know the layout of the major scale along one string, and which scale degrees have major thirds and which have minor thirds, the only other things you need to know are how to find major and minor thirds relative to the string you're focusing on, and how to move around inside the scale. In my previous video on intervals, I showed how to find all the ways you can finger thirds. Here's a recap. There are 4 useful fingerings for finding major thirds in melodic playing. You can find one up 4 semitones on the same string. There's one up 1 string and down 1 fret. When this shape straddles the warp between the G and B strings, the 2 notes are on the same fret. If you're unclear what I mean by the warp, I have a video for that too. You can find a major third down 2 strings and up 2 frets. This is technically a minor sixth if you think of the lower pitch note as the reference, but we can think of it as being a major third up from the top note and then moved down 1 octave. My intervals video goes into more depth on how to wrap your brain around that. For our purposes here, if we're focused on the red note, the black note is always a major third up. When this shape overlaps the warp, it's just a 1 fret difference. And finally, we can find a major third by moving up 3 strings and over 1 fret. When this straddles the warp, it becomes a 2 fret span. To summarize, we have 3 different string distances and 2 different shapes for each, depending on whether or not the span crosses the warp. In this video, we're going to focus on these 3 combinations, but the others are also useful and easy to learn. Now, if we want to look at minor thirds, we just need to shift the black notes 1 fret toward the nut. So this is what we have so far. 3 string distances, each with simple shapes for major and minor thirds. To make this even easier to see and remember, here are the 3 shapes that we're talking about today. Major thirds are always in red, minor thirds are always in blue. The stars indicate the origin note for those intervals, and that will be the string where you're focusing your attention while you're playing. The 2 shapes on the right also work if you move them up a string set, and the shape on the left works on any adjacent string pair except for the B and G strings. Now let's put those into practice with some examples. The first place most people learn to find thirds is on the next string up. The opening lick of Brown Eyed Girl uses thirds played on the top 2 strings. The song's in G mixolydian, and we can find a G note at the 8th fret of the B string. Because it's the mixolydian mode, we can think of that note as being the 5th scale degree of the underlying major scale, which is C major. If that's confusing, check out my video on understanding the modes. The opening lick moves 2 steps up the scale and then back down. We have 1 major third built on the 5th scale degree, and then 2 minor thirds built on the 6th and 7th. To switch between those minor and major shapes quickly, I recommend always keeping your index finger on the high E string, and then use your middle finger on the B string for major thirds and your ring finger for minor thirds. The next phrase is the exact same pattern, but starting at the C note at the 13th. And incidentally, this is one of the places where the design of this guitar comes in pretty handy. It's pretty hard to play this lick on most acoustic guitars, even if they do have a cutaway. And we could extend the scale to cover the whole fretboard and move freely around inside it. And you can play melodies using those dyads. When I do this, I'm thinking about which scale degree is being played on the B string, and then I'm just fingering the major or minor shape depending on which one it needs to be. To talk about the next set of shapes, let's look at some of Nuno Bettencourt's licks in Decadence Dance. The song's in A mixolydian, and Nuno uses a lot of sixth voicings, which we can think of as being thirds rooted on the B string. There's an A note here at the 10th fret of the B string, which will mark as a fifth scale degree of the underlying major scale, which is D major. The main verse riff includes this lick, which is an A major chord followed by sliding around intervals based off of the first scale degrees in D major. These kind of licks are heavily used in country and other genres, perhaps not usually in hard rock, but Nuno uses them all over the place. Here's a fill where he walks down the entire scale. I used this one in the intro, and it sounds cooler when you play it as fast as Nuno does, but bear with me. Or something like that. The key to moving around quickly in these patterns is to always keep your middle finger on the D string note and use your index finger for the major thirds and your middle finger for the minor thirds. This makes it easy to move around as dyads, but also to play more melodically. One more example from Nuno. Here in the chorus of Decadence Dance, he plays an open A chord and then slides up to the dyad on the 9th fret of the E and G strings. Those notes are the 3rd and 5th of the chord, and you can play this kind of stab on any chord by visualizing where the root is on the E string and then sliding into the dyad that's 4 frets higher. On a major chord, that's always going to be the 3rd and 5th intervals of the chord. So as an example, if I do this on an open E chord, I can visualize that the root's on the open E string and slide up to the dyad on the 4th or the 16th frets. On an open C chord, I can visualize the root as being here on the 8th fret, and I'd slide up to the 12th. Although the 2-string spread I just showed you is probably the most often used way to play thirds harmonies, this next one is probably the most beautiful. And Blackbird by the Beatles is probably the most beautiful execution of them. The whole song is built around the ringing open G note, plays a pedal tone that everything else plays against. And Paul McCartney took advantage of the 3-string span between the A string and the B string to enclose the open G. To think about this, we'll start on the A string, which is where we'll focus on the scale. The descending line in the chorus of Blackbird is in G Dorian. That means that the G note here at the 10th fret would be the 2nd scale degree of an underlying F major scale. We can descend the scale from there. The chorus actually starts on the 1st scale degree, the F on the 8th fret, and there's a major third shape there. And then as it shifts down the scale, we get 7th scale degree, which is a minor third, the 6th scale degree, which is also a minor third, and then we've got major thirds on the 5th and 4th scale degrees. Those dyads all alternate with the open G string like this. You can use this same trick to play a bunch of different modes. We just saw G Dorian, which was made by thinking of the G note on the A string as the 2nd scale degree, and we built out the underlying major scale from there. But we could also shift the scale over so that the 5th scale degree sits on the G note, and then we'd be playing G mixolydian. We don't need to stick to the G string as the pedal tone. Let's say we wanted to use the open B string and play something that sounded Lydian. We could find a B note on the D string at the 9th fret, call that the 4th scale degree for Lydian, and build out the scale from there. And then we just use our thirds as we did before. This trick of using the open string as a pedal tone and surrounding it with spread thirds can be a lot of fun. It sounds pretty magical on acoustic guitar, and it's a good way to get the sounds of different modes in your ears, so have fun with it. And let me know in the comments which combinations of spread thirds and open strings you like the best. If you find yourself having difficulty remembering which note in the scale is which scale degree, I highly recommend spending some time learning the 3 notes per string method for scales. I probably use it more for moving up and down the neck than I do for moving across strings. My video for 3 notes per string is linked above. Don't forget that you can find a link to purchase a downloadable cheat sheet in the video description. And be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons to help this content reach more guitarists. Thanks for watching.